Hi, this is Todd, and welcome to the Thrive Singles Podcast. Whether you're single again or still single, stop hating being single and learn to thrive. Hey, welcome to another week of the Thrive Singles Podcast. Great to have you with me today. Today's podcast is called Who Can You Trust? It's hard to build, easy to lose, and harder yet to rebuild. Trust. As for rebuilding trust, that's too difficult to cover in this brief podcast. I may try to tackle that some other time. Today I want to talk to you about who to trust. After my divorce, I never thought I'd be able to trust again. After feeling so betrayed, it seemed impossible to even consider trusting someone of the opposite sex. And yet, without trust, there can never be intimacy. So, if you desire deep intimacy with another human being, you have to learn to trust. But as a single, it sometimes seems like it's a jungle out there. Who can you trust as a date? Who can you trust for advice about who to date? I know you know this. Like me, you probably learned it the hard way by getting your heart broken. But let me begin by stating the obvious. Not everyone deserves your trust. So how do you know who you should trust and not trust? There are, after all, two types of people in this world. People you should trust and people you should not trust. Actually, there is a third group. There may be people in your life who have failed you in a moment of weakness, and they might deserve a second chance. And I'll deal with that in a future post about how to trust again. Let's start with the obvious, though. If someone has betrayed you, why should you ever trust them again? There are people in this world who you can't trust. In very rare circumstances, there may be a reason to give them a second chance, but in the overwhelming majority of instances, you should not trust them, period. They have proven themselves unworthy of your trust, untrustworthy. Those people, they're pretty easy to spot. The second group is not so obvious. The corporate world calls them the yes men. The thing is, you can't absolutely trust anyone who sees you as absolutely perfect and who agrees with absolutely everything you say and do. Either they are lying to you, or they don't see you clearly enough to understand your strengths and weaknesses. Either way, you just can't trust them. Not for advice, definitely not in a relationship. On the other extreme, some people seem to revel in shooting you down at every turn. There's no possible way you're as ugly or as stupid or wrong as often as they say you are. When people use phrases like, you never or you always, that's a clear indication they have no grasp on reality. You can't trust them. Just as you are never as perfect as your yes men say you are never as bad as your naysayers say you are. Don't go to them for advice and definitely never get into a relationship with one of those. What about your heart? Follow your heart. That's common advice. I would submit, though, that the Bible is correct when it says that our hearts are deceitful and wicked and inclined toward leading us astray. Especially in love and romance, the so-called matters of the heart. All too often, prevailing wisdom turns out to be wrong. How many people do you know who have followed their heart into a relationship, then followed their heart right back out of that relationship? Apparently, hearts are susceptible to either error or a change of heart, so to speak. What about the brain? I would further submit that deciding with your brain alone doesn't yield much better results. One big problem with doing it that way is we hardly ever actually do it that way. We tend to make decisions with our heart and then use our brain to justify the decision we already made. We think we've thought it through, but actually we just thought about why our decision was the correct one. But even when we do think it through first, our mind can be deceived. We can be genuinely or purposely ignorant of all the facts. Also, we consciously decide which facts we consider and which facts we give more weight. So given all that, who can you trust? How about friends? But not just any friends. Every one of us should make the time and spend the effort to develop real friends. Real friends are neither yes men nor naysayers. Real friends are, well, real. They're valuable in that they tell you the truth in a loving way. They act in your best interest. Carefully nurture those relationships with a few people who prove themselves trustworthy over a period of time. Then trust their input. If your council of trustworthy friends says someone you want to go out with can't be trusted, believe them. Believe your trustworthy friends over the not proven trustworthy person you want to go out with. But these friends must be carefully chosen. Ideally, they should help play a key role in deciding who you trust in a romantic relationship, so you have to pick them carefully and vet them properly. They should have long-term, stable marriages and other relationships in their own life. If they're still single, they shouldn't have a trail of broken relationships. Look for friends who are in good terms with most of the people they have dated. Avoid anyone who has a long list of exes they're always ready to rant about. Anyone with a long list of terrible exes is either terrible picking out trustworthy partners, or they are the problem in their relationships. Either way, you can't trust their advice or their friendship. Personally, my heart has led me astray numerous times, and my brain has miscalculated numerous times. But if you can't totally rely and trust your heart or your brain, who can you trust? Oh, what about your gut? Your gut reaction to things is usually a very good indicator. There have been so many times in my life where I've made a decision and I didn't know exactly why. I based that choice solely on my gut reaction, but more often than not, those choices have been my best decisions. Twice recently, I came across a story about a Russian officer who went against what his instruments were telling him and went with his gut. His instruments were telling him that the United States had launched a nuclear attack on Russia. His gut told him something was not right. Thankfully, Colonel Stanislav Petrov's gut was correct and the instruments were malfunctioning. Otherwise, human history would be quite different now if we were still here to read about it. There are a lot of brain-gut connections. The gut has even been called a second brain. It's been theorized by some that things that may not quite make it to your conscious thinking can still be picked up on and reacted to by our, quote, second brain, unquote. In other words, we may pick up on disturbing things about a person that never quite make it into our conscious thoughts, but we do get a bad feeling in our gut about them. We can't immediately explain it, but our gut gives us definite warnings. So let me sum it up. Do not trust people who have demonstrated they can't be trusted. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? Do not trust yes men. Don't trust naysayers. And when it comes down to it, you really can't trust your heart or your brain. So who do you trust? Trust real friends. Friends that you've carefully picked, carefully vetted, and have proven themselves over quite a bit of time. And trust your gut reaction. It's actually, in experiments, been shown to be more accurate than your brain in making decisions. Did I leave out anything important? Do you agree? Disagree? Let's talk about it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. See you next week. Till then, be sure to subscribe and go check out my extensive archive of past posts at thrivesingles.com. And thrive on.
Whoa, thrive. Yeah, come alive. There's more to life. You gotta grow, you gotta thrive. Whoa, whoa, you gotta thrive. There's more to life than to just gotta grow.